Well, thanks everybody for coming out. My name is Rick Rosso. I hold the Wadhwani Chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies here at CSIS. And do not blink your eyes. Stop that blinking. You actually have two Wadhwani chairs here on stage at the same time, and actually a third here in the front row, Ambassador Rick Inderfurth, who got this program launched. And but Hemant Singh is the Wadhwani Chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies based at ICRIR, which is India's finest think tank. So a very unique partnership that CSIS and ICRIR have, which the Wadhwani Foundation funds chairs in both countries, which has provided some pretty unique ways to try to influence debate and provide great insights to both governments. I think, probably my favorite was when both sides issued the two reports on BIT and beyond, on what each side would like to see out of a bilateral investment treaty. And for those of us that work so much on U.S.-India relations, too often it's one hand clapping. The United States wants to do this, India wants to do that. Having co-chairs on both sides of the ocean has provided a pretty unique opportunity to actually have views shared on both sides on common issues. So it's been pretty unique, and it's great to have Ambassador Singh here today, visiting Washington, help doing a lot of briefings for our friends in government and outside of government on what this election means. Certainly you've all heard people like me and others that have watched it from 6,000 miles away try to give you what insights we have, but now you're going to get it from the real deal. Ambassador Singh, I'm sure, as you all know, has a long and distinguished career in the Foreign Service, joining in 1974, serving in a variety of positions, including in the United States, but most notably at the end of his career in the Foreign Service, served as a couple of ambassadorships both to Indonesia and to Japan. And upon his retirement in December 2010, he moved to ICRIR to be the Wadhwani Chair in India-U.S. Policy Studies. He's also joined on stage a special guest here. Sanjay Pulapaka is also with the Wadhwani Chair at ICRIR and has helped to prepare a lot of the work that they've been doing so far. And you may notice a slight accent from Sanjay because he studied in the Appalachian or the Shenandoah Mountains here in Virginia itself. So if you hear that Virginia mountain accent, you know where that comes from. So let me turn the floor over to our chief guest, Ambassador Hemant Singh. Sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rick, for that introduction. Thank you for the remarks directed at me. And it's a real pleasure to be back in Washington and to be among friends at CSIS. I see Rick Inderfurth and Don Kemp sitting right there. We've been partners in launching these chairs together for the last 3 years. And of course, we greatly value the ongoing partnership with Rick Rosso, who just joined as India Chair at CSIS. I think that the jokes will come at the end because that is something which will probably be helped out by the comments of Rick and Sanjay. Please direct all your difficult questions to them and leave the easy ones for me. Since this is just about 3 weeks since a new government was formed in India, I was wondering all along what shape to give these remarks to be able to reach out to you and to convey a fairly accurate sense of what has happened. And I decided that, originally this title says Indian Policy Priorities, etc., under Prime Minister Modi. Now, at best, we can make an early assessment with just 3 weeks down for the government. But it's better to understand at a much more fundamental level what the Modi phenomenon means for India and understand the kind of change that India's social, political, and economic space has undergone over the last several months of the election and then with the result. It wasn't an ordinary election. My prediction is that in years to come, 2014 will be seen as a watershed with the potential to transform India's political ethos and model of governance. Now, since the morning, I've been giving the same remarks at different events with US entities and government entities in DC. But it does occur to me that neither in India nor abroad have we really captured how much of change this represents. So I will walk you through some of those changes which I anticipate happening. Now, of course, 814 million people registered to vote and 551 million voting, 66% of voter turnout, extraordinarily high, even from past Indian experiences, where the average has been roughly in the last 3 elections, 55%. Almost 1 million polling stations, electronic voting, results out in 3 hours, 4 hours. It was quite a remarkable festival of democratic transition of government. And what we saw at the end was that for the first time ever since we were independent, a non-Congress party, the BJP, secured a parliamentary majority on its own. And our foundational party, the Congress, which has ruled us for most of the time since we were free, suffered its first ever result since we gained independence. Now, there's lots of myths and assumptions about Modi and the victory or non-victory, etc. I'll run you through some of them and then give you some of the counterfacts. First myth, and I must say that virtually every assumption of India's established left liberal commentariat proved to be wrong. First one, Modi is too politically divisive a figure to ever successfully lead the BJP. In fact, the Modi factor will help the Congress to come back to power. Second, India's vote is fragmented, and there is no prospect of any party securing a majority, not now, not in the future. So we have a permanence of the coalition era. Third, that there is no Modi wave, none. It's just a notion and a creation of the media and business who support him. These are actual trends of thinking which we witnessed across the election. And post-poll, the denial of a Modi victory has continued. And I'll give you some examples of that. Well, the BJP only secured 31% of the vote. The Congress in 1984 and the Janata in 1977 have done better than Modi did. There's an unfair kind of an edge which Modi secured from media, business, even non-resident Indians, social media he used, et cetera, gave him an edge. He does not have a unique mandate to govern. And this is a good nugget from Washington, D.C. itself. The Modi factor in the BJP's victory is not statistically substantiated. He gained from anti-incumbency and won as he convinced his party that it could succeed. Now, I mean, these are real commentaries which have come, which give you an idea of the sense of disbelief and cynicism which has pervaded this entire time. And it does not recognize the hope and the change which Mr. Modi represents. The left in India, which has been decimated, has now started appealing for proportional representation. But of course, that won't help them either, because cumulatively they got 4% of the vote, and there's always a cutoff for national vote in terms of proportional representation. So they won't have gained from proportional representation even if there was a system like that in India. What are the counterfacts? The counterfacts are that the pre-poll alliance formed by the BJP secured a massive 38.5% of the vote, as against a cumulative 23% for the Congress and its allies. The Congress with 19% of the vote and the Communists with 4% of the vote were comprehensively defeated, as were most caste-based parties. All parties which supported the UPA 2 government were marginalized. Those which opposed the UPA to government were rewarded. Now, this election has set aside the assumption about the presumed permanence of a coalition era and the inevitable strengthening of regional parties in India. In fact, this time, the non-Congress, non-BJP nationwide, the rest vote came down from 53% in the last election to 49%, first time below the 50% mark. The BJP successfully transcended its supposedly inherent political limitations and geographical boundaries. So we don't have that map up here, but basically there's a map which you would have seen in The Economist, which is taken from the Indian Election Commission, which shows you the length and breadth of India, and virtually all of it is pink, which is the color which they gave the BJP. Indeed, the BJP turned out to be more successful than the Congress in forging regional alliances. Taken together, if you take the two national parties and their alliances, they secured 62.5% of the vote as against 37.5% for the so-called Third Front, which is again very significant in terms of the trends which we have witnessed for the last 2.5 decades and what we see now happening at this election. What's the result? In broad terms, our political system, our economic space has taken a comparatively right of center economic model sort of a turn. That's one. And then you see voter consolidation on a development governance platform across the country. And that's part of the phenomenon which created this massive wave which led Mr. Modi to an outright victory. This implies another few things: eclipse of India's left liberal Anglophile elite and proponents of India's democratic underachievement. Now, they've had their turn in power, they've run the country in a certain way, they have imposed limitations on the country's growth, its social progress, and, well, sometime or the other, this eclipse was going to be inevitable. And it's a triumph for whom? It's a triumph for the vast majority of India's rural-urban heartland, small town, vernacular-speaking, neo-middle class. Now, that's something which was happening in the last two elections. The government was not noticing it. It was ascribing different reasons for the success of the Congress in 2004 and 2009. But I was always, having studied foreign countries and their governance systems and their democratic elections and analyzed them and reported on them, stuck my neck out, as they say in the